My name is Monica Gleberman, and you're listening to Silence on Set podcast. On today's podcast, we're speaking with EdwinLee Gibson, who's on FX's hit The Bear. The Bear follows Carmy and his gang as they try to transform a grimy sandwich joint into a next-level spot. For season 2, they strip the restaurant down to its bones, and the crew undertakes transformational journeys of their own, each forced to confront the past and reckon with who they are and who they want to be in the future. Of course, it turns out the only thing harder than running a restaurant is opening up a new one, and the team must juggle the insanity of permits and contracts with the beauty and creativity and agony of menu planning. So to talk about the show, what it was like joining the cast, how they all bonded, and what we can expect for season 2, here is the one and only EdwinLee Gibson. So I'm so happy, as I was saying, to have you on here, Edwin, today. I've been watching you for quite a long time, and
Wow.
I'm very excited to speak with you about your career. And obviously, we can't ignore the fact that The Bear just got an Emmy nomination.
A few.
So
I
yeah, a
did.
few of them. So congratulations. So I'll start off there.
Okay.
What does that feel like when you woke up this morning? Because the Bear, obviously was nominated for various awards last season
Yes.
for season 1,
Right.
but it really has gained significant momentum since it aired.
Yeah.
So waking up this morning, you see a million Emmy nominations, you have HCA nominations. So what does that feel like?
We have what other nominations? What is that?
The Hollywood Critics Association, I
Oh,
think
really?
there
Oh,
were
that as well.
there. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Very nice. No, it's it's a credit to what Christopher has created and what he and Joanna Kahlo have put together. It's such a wonderful moment, I think, for Jeremy and for Eben and for Io individually, and then with Lionel and Abby and Liza and myself and Maddie. Um, um, you know, it's just great because all of us get along so well,
Mm-hmm.
and it's great that this is happening because I think what this is for is for season 1 because last year we weren't eligible. I think we were a little bit late. Um, so it's great. It's really wonderful. I'm really excited and happy for the individuals and for the collective. So yeah. My publicist rang me this morning and she was asking me if I'd seen it, and so it's good. It's good, and and of course I'm a Jeannie Baccarat who casts the show, and just everyone at FX. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really amazing. And you're right, a lot of it is for season 1 because I think you guys were at the very tail end of
Mm.
eligibility. So season 2 just is out. And we will circle back, I promise, to the Bear because I know everyone's going to want to listen to information about the Bear, but I just wanted to get that out of the way because it was
I
so
haven't seen
exciting and it
season two
happened
at
this
all.
morning. Oh, wow,
I
you
haven't seen,
haven't?
no. I'm involved in another project right now, and I've had time to do anything.
Oh my
So
gosh, it's so good. I'll tell you, it's
good.
so good.
All
Um,
right.
the stuff that happened though. But yeah, so we'll circle back. I definitely wanted to bring it up because the announcements were this morning and it's just amazing. And the show has done so well. So I can only imagine what will happen next year when they're looking at season 2, but
Yeah.
congratulations. But to kind of go back for a second, I looked at your career and I have watched you again, like I said, for quite a bit of time. You
Mm.
started back around, like, probably even before this, before 2010. But I first saw you and I went back and rewatched it in Law and Order SVU,
Oh yeah.
all back in like 2014. And, all the way back then, I saw you in like Law and Order in 2010. I think I looked up the year. So for you, what made you kind of decide to enter into the acting arena to begin with? And what was that process like? Because you kind of started off doing like what a lot of actors do, television shows and kind of like hopping in and jumping from show to show.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. Well, a lot of people probably don't know, but I've been in the theater for about 41 years.
Wow.
So I started when I started working, and I gauged that by paychecks. I started working when I was 16 in the theater. So I've had guess it's my 41st year in the theater, and I'm currently in my 104th theater production. Um, so
That's
yeah,
crazy. So
yeah.
you're a
So
theater boy, like born and bred theater.
yeah, I'm a theater rat is what I call myself. I was an athlete, so a lot of them are you consider yourself a gym rat because you're always in working. But I had some fortune to do some screen work here and there over the years, but it's I think it's been an evolution, and just wanting to extend myself and exercise my muscle very differently, which I get to do on the screen. Um, um, and so it's been great. It continues to be a learning experience for me. Um, so I don't know if that answers the question or not.
No, it does. And well, what I'm curious about too is because you've done theater for so long, was that hard to transition into television? Because I speak to a lot of actors that start with a theater background,
Mm.
and some of them struggle, and then some say it was good for that. So like everyone has, a different experience. What was your experience kind of transferring, because it's such a different medium?
Yeah, it's pretty seamless for me because I have a natural curiosity. Like when Law and Order happened, that 2010 one off there. I think Jim McKay was the director of that. I think I basically got it because of my leather jacket that I wore to the audition. Uh, because the last thing he asked me was, "Oh, if you got the part, would you wear the jacket?" Sure. And if you look at it, that's mine. But no, I think it's been pretty seamless. I've enjoyed challenges, and I know that some theater actors do struggle, the same way some TV and film actors struggle on the boards. But I think it's been pretty seamless for me. Um, the SVU um, uh, gig came because after what I did in 2010 on the regular Law and Order, they were looking for me specifically.
Wow.
So yeah, I was actually in a play in Pittsburgh and got a phone call asking me if I would be interested in this character. And I was so happy that they had me back, but it didn't gut punch that they didn't keep this character on. Such a great character. Orton Freeman, I think his name was. Shady public defender. I really, really loved that. And so yeah, so it's been pretty seamless, and then you do more and you do more and you do more, and then you keep your muscle active by going here to there, here to there. Um, I struggle actually with the font of TV and film scripts. The way
Really?
they're yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
they're all like that standard script font. So is
Well,
it that you like struggle with, or
yeah, the writing sometimes, I mean, it leaves beautiful spaces. I love that. But
right?
there are spaces, and the spaces that playwrights leave are very different.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, so that was the only adjustment, but I like things like that. So it's been seamless. It's been a lot of fun, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I
I
can't
could
say more about it.
no, I could tell that you have a lot of fun because the roles that you play are so diverse. And I feel like a lot of times too, even if you're on an episode, like one episode or 5 episodes, you know, you have a huge impact, because right away when I saw you on The Bear, I was like, ooh, I know him from other things. Then I started looking back, and I remember you on Chicago PD,
Yeah.
and that was like a one role. So, for Chicago PD, Fargo, you were on a couple episodes. You were on, I think, like 2 episodes of that. For you, how have you changed as an actor from like the Law and Order, like your first, I'm going from theater to TV,
Mhm.
to a show like Chicago PD, which is like a huge #1 show on NBC, and Fargo? What has changed for you as an actor over those years?
Yeah, I don't think much has changed about me. I think what's happened is that I've been just fortunate and very excited to kind of do what I do, which is to play a variety of roles. Because even in the theater, people didn't really put the name with the characters because I was always doing different things. And so I'm just happy that I get to do it this way now. So it's it's been great that people have seen the other stuff and they're like, well, yeah, well, he could probably do this, and or that I show them that I can do this, and they're like, sure. Sometimes you can have a certain look, and people just say it's for this or for that. Even now I look nothing like Ibrahim right now because I'm in another play right now, and I haven't seen my entire face in about 15 years. There's always some hair on it, someplace, but um, but yeah, I actually like the fact that people have to catch up to see, because when they see Happy from Fargo, they're like, wait a minute, that's the same guy. Or, and they see um the PD joining, then they see the other stuff, and they're like, wait a minute, this guy, so now the hope is that no one will be able to say, well, he can only do this because you've seen me do this and this.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And that's exactly what happened to me. So for season one, as a journalist, they give us screeners. So I had seen the first few episodes of The Bear season one early. And right away, I went, I know him. I was like, he looks familiar. And it took me a second. And I started going through. And then that's when I looked you up. But you were also in one of my favorite shows, which I think should have had a million seasons, which was Unprisoned, which was so
uh,
good.
yeah,
So I knew you right away from that. And then I started going back and I was like, oh my gosh, oh my God, that's right. Oh my God. So you have just had that career where these characters that you play are so significantly different that the range that you have, it might take a second for people to be like, oh yeah, that's where I know him from. Or like
yeah,
you said, theater, there's some people that they live and breathe that, and they've seen you in all these plays, and then they go, oh my gosh, he's on television. It's like that same thing.
yeah.
So we're all like discovering you in different ways.
Well,
um
good.
yeah, which is good, right? We're finding you. We're finding you and loving you. I wanted to ask you, because Unprisoned was so good, what was it like on that show? You did such a good job. You were like so funny and serious, and it was just such a great role. I loved it. I wanted it to go on for season after season. It was such an interesting take on storytelling, because for anyone that hasn't seen it, there were versions. Oh, Kerry Washington is in it, and there are versions where the child of themselves kind of speaks to them. And so it's like a very interesting take on family and the prison system, and what it really looks like to have someone come home, and just a little more realistic, but on a very funny side. It was an adaptation. It was very good. If you have not seen it, I highly recommend looking it up. It's called Unprisoned. It
Yeah,
was on Fox, it's on Hulu. But you were in that, and you were fantastic in that role. So can you talk to
thank
me a
you.
little bit about what that process was like, how you got it, and how you created him?
Well, I read for that like 2 days before I wrapped on The Bear last season, and Kerry Washington and the great Kerry Washington and the great Delroy Lindo, who are starring in and executive producing it, along with the can't say enough about Yvette Lee Bowser and Tracy McMillan, who the story is based on. They decided that they would have me on the show, and so Fox is just Delroy Lindo's character, best friend. Delroy Lindo's character's name is Edwin, and I'm convinced. I don't know if anybody would say it. I don't know if I'm even right, but I'm convinced at least that they changed his name to Edwin after I was cast. Because I saw scripts before and it wasn't Edwin. So I'm gonna just I'm gonna stand on that. I'm sure
I'm gonna
that
go with that's true.
I'm sure Miss Bowser, Mr. Lindo, Miss Washington may say no, it was always there. You just weren't looking. But it was such a happy circumstance because I got to call someone else my name. I've never done that before. We hope it gets a second season. And I'd hope to be involved in it. Either way, it's a really, really great piece, and I hope it goes forward, whether it's with me or not with me.
Yeah, it's such a great story. It's so good. It's so interesting. The original piece is interesting if people haven't picked it up to read it. And it's a true life story. And she just wrote it in a really funny, humorous way of having to deal with what it was like having a father that was absent and that comes home from prison and how you deal with that kind of thing. And what was really great is there were successful characters on there that are, I'm just gonna say it, that are Black, and we don't have enough successful Black characters. So she's a successful woman, she's a mom, Kerry Washington plays this great, powerful, strong woman, but that also wants to connect with her father, and he's not as bad as. There was just a lot of stereotypes, I think, broken in that show that were really important.
Yeah, well, what I think the misnomer I think there's a misnomer that these characters don't exist. I think when you look at representation and kind of what's produced in large form, like The Bear, those stories and those characters, they're not exclusive to people that look like you. There are also people that look like me. Tropes exist no matter what. One of my things about The Bear was that I thought Ibrahim might be a trope, but then I had to remember it's me playing it, so it won't be a trope because I say, my art and the way I do my art lends itself to what you see in Unprisoned and what you see in The Bear, which is the humanity of people. So I'm not, in that way we find our similarities. We see the differences, and good storytelling has an array of has extends itself to an array of demographics. So that's one thing about what good art does, because there's a lot of really tropey bad art with people that don't look like me, but we don't talk about it in that same way.
But you're right though about, I haven't thought about it in that way, and you're the first person to say that in terms of the art, that it could be written a certain way. I mean, you hope that it's written in a positive way, but it could be written in a negative way, but it's how you interpret your art, right? How you want to bring it to the screen, what you're hoping to showcase. And in that show in particular, I felt like a lot of the stereotypes or the things that people might assume are true were broken by the way that it was showed on that show and by the relationships and how they were portrayed. And so for me, I just adored that show, and I love it so much. I really want another season of it, but you guys did such a great job in doing that, because it's not shown. And I remember when I got to interview some of the actors from that show and the kids, which was great. And a lot of them were just saying that they were just so happy that they were able to show it in a non-negative way. That a lot of times you hear someone gets out of prison and it's a negative connotation, and this was not that. This was like, them rebuilding a relationship and a family.
And I think what you're saying is very, very poignant, because that's not you can take any people of any skin hue, and there's that reacclimation to the world from being incarcerated. There are the lives you left behind. There are the fences that you decide to mend, and you try to work that out. And I think the reason that a show like Unprisoned does work is because it's not just about a singular group. It's about an aesthetic, if you will.
Mm.
Uh, and it's a really really beautiful undertaking, and yeah, and hopefully we'll see more of that show.
Yeah, well, I'll keep my fingers crossed. They have to have you, so I'm just gonna manifest that you're in it because you're so good in it. So
Thank you.
I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed for a season 2 for it and for you to be in it. Like I said, if you're listening or watching us, if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It's like I said, it's on Hulu. It had aired on Fox. Fox probably has it available too. It's such a great show, and I think you learn a lot about yourself, and I think you'll walk away thinking differently about something, about some sort of subject watching that show in particular. So I highly recommend it. I loved you in it. I had to bring it up. But that takes me to the next most amazing thing, obviously, which we started this conversation with. A little show that started called The Bear, which
Yeah.
again, this show, I don't know if people really understand how crazy this must be for you, because again, as journalists, we get things early. I watched it and they had given us all the episodes. I binged it like a crazy person. Like I was in, I felt like I was living with you guys. Like it's filmed, I don't think anybody listening or watching has not seen it. But if you haven't, it's filmed very much like a documentary. It feels like we're kind of with you. There's long one takes where literally it will go on for like 4 minutes and a million things are happening. And it's basically about a chef that comes home because his brother takes his own life, and he has to take over his restaurant, or he decides to take over the restaurant, and just pure chaos and everything that could possibly go wrong in life goes wrong for these people. I feel terrible. But it was such an interesting show, and the long takes, the documentary style feeling, the unsteady camera, the close-ups in your face. There were just so many things that were so interesting about the show. I was like hooked. I mean, completely hooked into it. And I don't know if people realize that it was such a small show. It was like this little thing. They weren't really advertising it that much. They were just kind of passing it out to journalists. It airs on Hulu, and people just started talking about it. And this is a true word of mouth success, because it really was not promoted. So like now I think people could look back and be like, oh, of course, The Bear, I'm watching season 2, right? Like it's this big thing, but it was not that way. And I remember that it was not that way. So what was it like for you getting this job? Were you kind of like, okay, it's another job, I'm excited to play this character? Did you have any clue like that it was going to get to the point of success that it has gotten to? Because I mean, it skyrocketed.
Yeah, I wasn't so sure about it initially.
Yeah.
I told my manager, I said, I don't think I want to read for this. And then he
Oh
impressed.
no.
Yeah, yeah. But then that's why he does his job so well. He he directed me to other things that Christopher Storer had done, and and I went and watched some of those things, and then I was like, oh wow, okay, yeah, I do want to be part of this. But then I didn't have anyone to read with, so I sent um if you remember that scene in that one take, episode 7, season 1, the one shot, the story that Ibrahim is telling Richie while he's bandaging up his ass after Sydney's stabbed him. Um, uh, um, that's the scene that I had for the audition, and so I couldn't find a reader, so I sent it in as a monologue. Uh,
That's such a theater move. That's so amazing. Oh my gosh, it's such a theater actor thing
yeah,
to do.
I'll tell you, yeah.
That's
Oh,
amazing.
I sent it in as a monologue, and then Jeannie and Christopher sent a note back to my manager, and asked if I could find a reader and do it again. And so I did it. And then had a Zoom, and it turned out that Christopher Storer had seen me in the theater in Chicago.
Wow.
And he said that he'd always wanted to work with me. So once
So
again, I mean,
crazy.
yeah. So that was just great. And again, when you're doing your art, you just work in the dark, and I'm not looking for the accolades necessarily, but then things find you if you're working, and you're working on the art, I guess. And so it was so great, and I think it was one of the dumbest moves I almost made. Uh, uh, um, yeah, one of the
Yeah,
dumbest
you might
moves.
have been kicking yourself a little bit
Maybe,
if
maybe,
you said no and someone else played it
yeah, yeah,
for some
yeah.
reason.
Well, yeah. But see, that's the thing. I was like, well, um, I want this guy in my hands.
Mm,
I want him in my hands. I don't want him in anyone else's hands. Because I think that for me, it's like the reason I'm so infrequent, but then I'm there is because um, I feel like sometimes there are characters that need me, and then there are other characters that don't need me at all. But sometimes there are characters I feel that need me, um, and I want to be there for them. And Ibrahim is Christopher describes him so beautifully as a mystery who has lived 1,000 lives. That's all it says about Ibrahim.
wow.
I was like, that's all I need. That's all I need. And he and Joanna just give me a lot of space to just kind of work. Sometimes I'm like, well, hey, don't you want to tell me anything? And they're like, what do I want to tell you? So they just their confidence, and just again, everyone we work with, it's the little engine that could, man.
Yeah, it's one of the I mean, honestly, it's one of the greatest kind of fairy tale stories I've ever seen of a TV show. I mean, there are a lot of TV shows that obviously don't make it and pilots, and we have all heard those kind of stories. There's a lot of shows that start off really small and blow up. There's I don't think anything I've seen in a long time that was like The Bear, where it was really, really tiny and really small and very much like minimally promoted and then turned into this hugely successful show. I could not be happier for you. It's so good. So when you read for it, you get it.
Mhm.
It takes place in Chicago, which I love. You get to see all of what Chicago has to offer, but 90% of it kind of takes place in the restaurant with you guys, kind of in the kitchen, and I mean it's just pure chaos for like lack of a better term. What was it like bonding with everyone, because you guys literally are working, I'm assuming, in a very small, I mean it looks very confined, like in a kitchen, for filming purposes I'm sure it's a little bigger because they have to put the cameras in and various things, but
Well, not really.
it's I was gonna say, but it still looks extremely small and you still have to feel compact. It still has to look like a kitchen, has to feel like a working kitchen. So what did you all do when you kind of met to get along? And then how do to survive being in those small spaces, and do you get claustrophobic at all? Like what is that whole process like?
No, I think it's just such a great synergy. We all got on very well, and we all kind of dig each other. Liza, who plays Tina, she and I are old friends from the theater back in New York, and we didn't know each other was on this project because I hadn't seen her in years,
Oh my gosh.
and we spent a lot of time when we did know each other, just kind of just like tossing barbs back towards each other. So once we got on the set and we saw each other again, we just picked up where we left off. And
Oh, that's
so
amazing. I'm talking to
yeah.
her tomorrow, so I'll have
Oh
to
yeah, yeah. So she and I really picked up where we left off years prior.
wow.
She's literally, she's like family, and hopefully she'll say the same thing about me. Probably not. Uh, no, but we all got along very, very well, and I think you watch each other and you see if there's any chinks in the armor, who's gonna be this or who's gonna be that, and this great combination of youth and experience. Um, um, it was just so great. But I think the tone is set by the work, and everyone came in wanting to do the work. And um, um, you can start with Jeremy, and you can go down to myself, um, and everyone in between. We just really were focused on that. The space was the space. We were working in a very, very tight space. And even that a one shot, we shot like four of them, and one of them we were almost done and we hit something. One of the cameras hit something. We had to reset and go back and do the whole thing again. But that was cool. But like nobody was like, oh, tripping on that. We were just like, okay, let's get it. So it was just a really, really wonderful experience. And we have a group chat amongst us. So
It's amazing.
yeah. So even now, so yeah, we get on very well.
Well, it's so funny that obviously, I'm sure people ask you about Jeremy all the time, but what was interesting is Jeremy has said in the past, from the pilot to the next episode, there was like a 6-month break or something in between. So, and that he had spent time in kitchens and really trying to learn, what to do. And he really like threw himself into it. And he said that everybody on the cast really went like crazy to make sure they were on top of their character, knew what they wanted, showed up to do what they were supposed to do. And then for those like scenes where you guys are kind of famous now for these like long takes where the camera doesn't cut away. There's a lot of choreographed stuff where you guys will rehearse for a couple of days and then film those scenes. So for you, in between the pilot and the second episode, did you do anything during that break to practice for your character or build him or create a background? And then how do you handle those takes with the rehearsals, those long takes?
Well, I'll take the second part first. I come from the theater, so those are not really big deals for me. I was quite jealous that I didn't have more to do in that episode. I had the opening where he's reading the paper, and then later when he's bandaging up when Ibrahim is bandaging up Richie's
Well,
ass.
he's so cute though. Like he's so adorable when we meet you.
Yeah, well, no, but no, it's great. He's such a good character, Ibrahim, and um, one of the things I like to do is I like to tell a story without words, and so I kind of get that space to do that. I don't have to worry about trying to be in on the joke the way everyone else is, But and I think he's kind of this calm that's there amidst all the other stuff. And someone asked me once, "Well, don't you feel like you get looked over because he's so quiet?" And I was like, "Well, that's okay. I mean, I'm just doing my job. You know, I don't worry about that, but I just really, really lean into that quiet because there is a story back there. Like when you hear him speak when he's talking about being in a brigade and wearing these colors and even in season 2 when he's talking about not wanting to wear a uniform and it's so there's and so I and so again coming from the theater and I didn't go to drama school, so I haven't had any formal training, but I'm really interested in the humanity of people, and so with this whole thing with him, it's just um, there are places in the script where I can see, oh, here is his story,
Yeah.
and people may wonder why is he protesting so much, and I don't know why yet because that script hasn't come to me, from the writers, from the showrunners, but there are moments there that I've recognized. Oh yeah, here's the story.
Yeah, like
Right.
something's coming.
Yeah. Of course, and we may never see it, but it's just important that I know it. As an artist, as an actor, and whether it's whether it's delved into or not is immaterial. Whether people recognize me and what I'm doing is immaterial. I like to listen. I'm a listener. As actors go, I'm a listener more than I'm an actor, I think, now at this point in my career. Um, and and I just love every aspect of this piece and this character and the calm that he is on this Titanic.
It's no, but it's true.
Yeah.
I think that it's interesting that people have said overlooked because I actually feel the complete opposite. I
Well,
think
good.
there's so much chaos going on that anytime we see your character, I feel like is very important because
Yeah.
that's the moment that we have some calm, like a moment of silence or some calm or some steadiness. This is a guy that's been doing this for a long time. This is somebody that's very comfortable, so he's not taken up with all, like, there could literally be things going on fire around him. He's very structural, and I think there's we know that there's a military background, like, there's a reason for some of the way that he handles things, but it's almost like he's in a war zone and he doesn't hear any of that, and he's
Yeah.
just focused on what he needs to do. So to me it's much more powerful when we see your character or when he has something to say, because he's so to himself, doing his job, and that's what he should be doing, and that's what he's used to doing.
Right. Right.
Until he needs to speak and say something, and then to me, it's 10 times more powerful.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's what I love about him is that when he does say something that it's necessary, you know. And again, testament to Christopher and to Joanna for trusting me with this character and and just kind of giving you all just a snippet of him.
Mhm.
Uh, and that Joanna, you know, and Christopher let me smoke cigars because I'm a big cigar smoker. But that wasn't my idea. Like a lot of my friends think, "Oh, that was your idea." I was like, "No, no, no. I was on set one day and I wasn't shooting. But I just like to show up because that's how much I love them. It's like I'll show up on days I'm not shooting just to hang out. And so I was having a coffee with a cigar. And then Joanna says, we're gonna shoot one of your scenes, today as long as you're here. Can you smoke the cigar? And then, they went and they got me some cigars. Of course, I asked for ones that were a higher level than I was smoking.
I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. But
Yeah.
yeah, but it's such a wonderful thing, and I think the Emmy nominations and the just what you all have done, journalists, uh, um, just folks in general who just have just kind of taken this show and just held it
Mhm.
and just sit here, we're gonna just douse some flowers all over you. It's great, and we're so appreciative of it.
What do you think makes the show work so well for season one in particular? Because you guys are getting to know each other, you're getting along, which is great. The scripts are great, but sometimes that's not enough. Like the shows still don't do well, or shows, like it's just an interesting thing. What do you think made The Bear, specifically season one, work so well and gain such traction?
Um, I think the fact that we weren't trying to do anything, we weren't trying to direct it any place. The creators, writers, directors, they were just they had an idea of where they wanted this to go already. So it wasn't like we're gonna change, we're gonna pivot in the middle of things because maybe this can work. And I think that confidence in the work, and then our confidence in each other, and our support of each other really, really make this piece work. I think you see it in season one. I think season two is much stronger than season one. And I wasn't worried about sophomore jinx at all. Was we got the scripts and I sent Christopher a message saying, wow, wow. And this was like a month before we started shooting. So we all came back, number one, ready to go, but not ready to go to try to prove something. We were just happy to see each other. And then we just dove right back into the work. And because we'd already read the scripts and we knew that they were going to be really, really amazing.
Yeah. Like for me, it's so funny because people that haven't heard of The Bear back in season 1 when it was airing, they would ask me what it's about. And it's such a difficult answer for me because The Bear is about whatever you want The Bear to be about. I feel like there's so many characters and there's so many things going on. So I hate the log line. Like, and I'm sorry for whoever wrote it, but you have to write something. So it says, about a chef, like, but to me, there's so much more to that show. Like it's so hard to explain to someone. Like I tell people, I'm like, you need to watch the show. And again, this was in season 1. And they would say, well, what's it about? And I'm like, well, it's kind of like what you want it to be about. Like if you watch it and you relate to the struggle of like trying to make something fantastic and you have this vision, like Carmy has this vision and you want it to do well, like you'll relate to that. If you have struggles in your life, you can kind of laugh and relate to how bad things go, kind of episode to episode for this poor group that's trying to do well and improve themselves. You can relate to, so like there's just so many things that it's like it's almost like this organism. This might sound weird to you, I don't know, but like I feel like The Bear is almost like an organism, and it's just like when you watch it, whatever you attach to is what the show became for you. And to me, that's why it just did so well, because everybody watches it and feels a certain way, and all of us feel different ways about it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's such an interesting, it's such an interesting thing. It's so special, and I've never seen anything like it. For your character, so now that we've had season 2 is aired, so for anyone listening or watching, if you have not finished, stop, go watch it, come back. But season 2 has fully aired on Hulu, all the episodes, and I agree. I think it went even stronger this season with more character development, and we're finally seeing the fruits of the labor of wanting to make this restaurant into a beautiful place. And your character, and ironically Liza, who plays Tina's character, gets sent off to chef school to learn about, because everybody's kind of going somewhere. Like they have Marcus who's going on a boat and he's learning how to make new desserts, and everyone's trying to up their game
to Copenhagen. To Copenhagen. I was so excited for him and I was so bothered by that at the same time.
Yeah, everyone kind of like I was laughing too, actually, because I was like, wow, Marcus got a good deal. Because you guys go like, well, I should say Lionel, who plays Marcus, got a good deal because yes, he goes to Copenhagen, which is where Carmy, if people remember, he went back in season 1. And you relearn that during the Thanksgiving episode, which is one of the most famous episodes of season 2. You relearn that he was on a boat and things like, so you could piece together that's where he sends Marcus, is kind of what he experienced, and he gets to go there and learn how to make better desserts and do better things. And so everyone's kind of learning. And Abby, Abby, who plays Natalie,
lovely
Sugar.
Abby Elliott, the lovely Abby Elliott.
She's amazing, and I'm so happy, much more involved, and now is kind of taking over, and we have like a sibling kind of managing all you crazy people there. Yes. And the poor woman is trying to handle all the construction. But for your character and for Liza, who plays Tina, the two of you end up going to school because you guys are kind of the best, so two of the best kind of kitchen, like chefs. Everyone calls themselves a chef. So two of the best chefs there, and they want you guys to improve and learn the best of the best and come back. And Liza's character, Tina, does very well. And your character, your beautiful Abraham, does not so well. So why do you think now, and I completely understand his scaredness, I think, of learning something new. I think the scaredness of putting on a uniform, which if people didn't catch that, again, a lot of the season 1, when he does speak and tells you his background and the military and the war stuff, I think that's his aversion to wanting to wear a uniform. You don't want to be like everybody else. You don't want to look like everybody else. He went through something clearly tragic, and like he was wearing a uniform, you would assume. So I would think that's why he doesn't want to do it. But why do you think he struggles so much with it? I think one of the scenes that was so heartbreaking for me was when you first start and Tina's chopping away and you see Abraham, who can completely do that, just kind of slowly
Yeah.
chopping and like really struggling. Why is he struggling so much? What's happening to him this season?
Well, I think change affects people in different ways. And I think when you've come from something and you find solace in something else, and you've been in that, and that for a while, that becomes a safe house. And then when that's upended, that can maybe have you revert back to that thing from long ago. So I think without well, I just think without um giving too much away, um he's he's yeah, he's one person that is not afraid to express his fear. That's the one thing I think you see with this character, is that he's very honest about the things that scare him, in a way that like Carmy's trying to get there, and Mikey, couldn't stay that course. Um, and Richie is battling that, but Ibrahim is someone who's honest about it, because there's never been a choice about not seeing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. It does. But because you're right, a lot of the characters I do think in particular are struggling with emotion. I think that's a big emotion and communication are two of the biggest things I think that every character on the show struggles with at some point or continually. And your character, I think, maybe struggles a little bit with communication, but not with emotion at all. I think he's very open to emotion. And again, whatever backstory or reason why, it's clear that something had happened that makes him kind of open emotionally and vulnerable in that way, but not great at communicating why it is. And he kind of like shells up a little bit. And so he just leaves. He leaves, that scenario with Tina a bit and is struggling, and we don't really know why. And we still don't. So we're not giving anything away. Like we still don't really know why
Yeah.
he's
And
having such
but
a hard time.
and my hope is that I can show enough of that people are so wondering that Christopher and Joanna will be like, hey, yeah, I don't know. Let's do more. But I love the fact that they didn't give him more lines this season. That was one thing I was really kind of worried about. I was like, I hope they just let him sit that way. And they were, ahead of the plan already.
We're saying how you were
But
happy that the lines, they kept him still minimal and they kept a lot of things still a mystery. And you were kind of leading into too also that we hope that we have an episode. I agree. I really hope we have an episode where we get to learn some more about him, like where we really focus on him and get to see like why he is the way he is, or some of the things that have happened to him, and see why he reacts the way he does, I guess.
yeah, I mean, at least that's what I've seen happening now, that people are wondering more and more about him. And I think it's kind of what an ensemble does. You're there to support, like, all this chaos happens, and then here comes this quiet. And then after the quiet, we get back to the chaos, which is why people are really there. Uh, for being honest. And it's a beautiful chaos.
Well, I want to ask you,
But
quickly. Oh,
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
no, no, please. I'm
Oh,
done.
okay. I want to ask you quickly. So overall, what was your biggest shock this season? There was a Thanksgiving episode, which I was sad we didn't really see a lot of the cast on that one. There were a lot of guest stars in there. It has become one of the most famous, kind of talked about episodes because it was just so crazy, like over the top. If you watch the show and you're like, it cannot get crazier, that episode I think kind of topped the crazy, but it was so good. It was such a fantastic episode. It was a little more about finding out Carmy's life and a little more about how he grew up and Mike and all of that kind of stuff. But where do we kind of leave your character? Like where are we ending the season? What has his journey been?
Well, I what I think is really interesting is something that you see, people may or may not notice it, is that there's a picture that Ibrahim has over his station, and it's a picture of him and Tina and Mikey. It's the three of them just there, which speaks a lot to history. And it's one of the really beautifully subtle things that Christopher and Joanna have done to just kind of tell the story, much like some of the music you don't really catch. Like in that family episode, there's a faint sound of a particular song. I won't give it away, but it's playing in the background. Um, and I think that picture is another one of those things. And so um, they make a decision on what they want for Ibrahim, and my job is to execute it. But I don't know what will happen. I'm happy that he comes back, because when he disappeared, I was like, wait a minute. But then he came back. But yeah, we'll see. And I have a feeling that whatever it is, it's going to be really, really wonderful. They're gonna, I guess, the more people start to ask about more about this character, more that they will decide what they're going to do, and they may do nothing further than just have him be there. And I can take care of the storytelling in that way, and they've got a lot of confidence in me that I can take care of the storytelling in certain ways, and I can take these fragments and kind of fill it in. And I think that's really why I'm there, and I'm really happy to be entrusted with it.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's such a great show. I don't want to give away like too much from the finale, but it was very nice to kind of see the fruits of a lot of crazy labor on that restaurant
Yeah,
kind of come
yeah,
together, and the irony of kind of what happens to Carmy, which is as usual, it's so beautiful and then heartbreaking. I mean,
yeah,
literally frozen in time is basically what happened to him. So, it's just a really interesting take on a show. But I kind of want to end really quickly with, for fans. Obviously, there are fans all over the world. The show has
yeah,
spread like
yeah.
crazy, like we have talked about. Now season two's out, and season two, I mean, there were countdowns. There were, I mean, really, it just went nuts.
Really?
So, oh my gosh,
Wow.
yeah, like everybody's talking about the show. So, now that it's out and everyone's watched it, and you have thousands, millions, I would go as far as to say, fans.
Mhm.
I always like to give an actor, I have the privilege of talking to you and the honor of getting to kind of ask you questions and pick your brain. But not all the fans and every single person gets to talk to you. So I always like to give someone a second if there's anything that you want to say to the fans that have kind of followed you like me in your career and obsessively watched you. There's probably a million theater people that were like yelling at me going, I've seen them in theater, shut up about TV, that love you shows. So for all of us that have kind of followed you from all of the projects that you've done and to this amazing show, The Bear, that you have just excelled and done such a beautiful job this season for
Thanks
season
so much.
two, really adding to him, but not changing him. You did such a great job of adding more depth, adding more information, but not changing who he is at his core. And that's a very hard thing to do. And you did a great job of that.
Thanks,
So
Mark.
we all love you.
Okay.
Is there anything you'd like to say to the fans that love you and are just super excited and cannot wait for, I mean, they're ready. We all want a season three already. So is there anything you want to say to them?
Well, I like season 3 as well. But I guess I'd just like to say thanks. Thanks for riding on this train with us, and thanks for um the really pointed kind of responses to this character, um and what you much you want to see him, uh and I'm happy to keep playing these characters that I get to disappear into, and hopefully you will not recognize me next time either. So thanks. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
No, that's perfect.
Except
Yeah, and we just love you. And so anytime, I think you're exactly right. It's just we will follow you into the next crazy role that you play, and I'm sure you'll look completely different and do something else or another play, and we'll just keep kind of following you around. And I'm sure the bear will have it out of season 3. I have no doubt in my mind on that. So, we'll be watching you, and hopefully you'll get an episode where it's all about your character, because that would be great. I'd love to learn about him.
we'll see.
Yes, please come to New York. I'm based out of New York, so it'd be great. I would love to come see you on Broadway. So you'll have to save me a ticket. So that would be amazing.
Okay.
So I'll keep my fingers crossed. Yes, I have it in. But I want to say thank you so much for doing this. Like I said in the beginning, I love you. I have loved you for a very long time. I bothered your team to interview you, and I was so excited to have you on here. And I appreciate you taking the time. We went so long and so over to just talk, but it's so interesting what you have to say and how you talk about the art and the way that you look at things. I don't know. I just feel like I learn. I've watched a lot of interviews with you. I feel like I learn something every time I hear you speak about just the process and what it's like to be an actor and working. And so I just enjoy you so much, and I love you. And I just want to thank you for putting all this hard work into all these projects that you do. And
my pleasure.
Congratulations on your Emmy nominations.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's the first time. That's the first time for everything, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the first time for everything.
It's the first time, but it will not be the last time. I promise you.
I look forward to that. Definitely.
Well, congratulations. Have a great rest of the day. And thank you again so much for doing this. I love you so much.
Thank you. Love you too. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Peace.
Hope you guys enjoyed listening to Edwin talk about what it was like joining the Bear, his theater career, and giving some advice to new up-and-coming actors. It was so much fun to talk to him, break down some scenes, and of course, we had to discuss that infamous Thanksgiving episode. If you haven't checked out The Bear, it's available on FX, and it's also available streaming all episodes at once on June 22nd on Hulu. So make sure you head over there and check it out. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you're updated on all of our latest podcasts, and head over to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe so you'll be the first one notified of all of our video versions of these interviews.